smell a dog even down the block. This also makes the well-behaved dog more insecure. Knowing they smell a hormonal hell seeping through that ill-behaved dog, and knowing that the owner regularly moves around the dog with the smell of stress. Your smell of stress. You being the owner. So it all becomes a vicious cycle, right? Reinforcing bad behavior after bad behavior, negatively affecting all the dogs in the scenario, hormonally and psychologically, even if the original intent was friendliness. Right. So why do people perform this shubs move, the standoff? Well, I think there are many reasons, and knowing the reasons will help us end the madness together. So let's be proactive here. Number one reason I think that the owners do this is owners think that they have less control of their dog if they stop moving. And that's not true. Actually, you have more control of your dog if you keep them moving. Movement is your first medicine in a distracted, or more accurately, a freaked out dog. Keeping the movement going helps burn off the excess energy, which allows the dog a better opportunity to listen to you and comply. It also teaches the dog that when you are freaked out by another dog or distraction, your job is to keep moving with me. And now isn't that the most primal definition of heal? Stay with me no matter what, right? So you teach them another muscle memory, but they're not going to learn that if you tell them to freeze. If everybody freezes. Freezing is what somebody does when they don't want to be attacked by another dog. Freezing is your last resort. Don't run away. Just freeze. But relaxed. Freeze. That's another episode. All right. Number two reason I think that owners think that if the dog experiences another dog without contact, that experience with repetition will teach the dog to realize that nothing bad is going to happen to them. That's not true either. Another way of saying it is that the owners often think that the standoff will help socialize the dog, and it's exactly the opposite. All right? This is also a setup for failure, okay? Because a dog or dogs exposed to each other under so much pressure with nowhere to go actually increases the negative experience. They smell the stress on the other dog and on the humans, and this leads to associating bad stress smell with passing dogs. So with repetition, the dog learns to be more stressed out, especially if the owner doesn't put their body between their stressed out dog and the other dog, but rather lets their dog feel the full exposure to the danger, quote-unquote danger nearby, which increases insecurity rather than desensitizes them to the approachment of the dog. So you actually do the opposite of what you want by actually making the dog experience the standoff, and, just because nobody had any bloodletting, it's now positive. That's not true. All right. Third reason why I think that owners do this standoff behavior, this little shove move here, owners were told by trainers to command a distracted, possibly dog-aggressive dog to be in a sit-stay while the other dog passes. This is a common thing you see on the internet. I hear a lot of people who come to me finding that this is not working or has gotten worse, that they were told by other trainers who have such and such credentials to make their dog sit and stay while the other dog is passing when that dog already has a problem with dogs. That is exactly the opposite thing you should do in the beginning. All right, this is a very bad idea if the dog is so distracted that they continue staring at the other dog. All right, it is appropriate for certain levels of training when the dog already has a certain level of trust with the owner and the owner knows how to handle it. But it is not the right thing to do when you're first trying to teach your dog to not react to another dog. Okay? And here's why. Because now you've forced your dog into a sit, which is a peace sign to the other dog. And the other dog walks by. Or, in some cases, the idiot actually makes their dog go closer to your dog, so it's not helping at all with personal space or pack space, right? So the other dog walks by rather than sitting in return, and your dog is left high and dry like an unreturned invitation to a high five. So you can imagine how insecure or even a dominant dog, depending on where in the scale your dog lies in personality, they could be offended by that. They could be absolutely bent out of shape about that because they put out their hand to shake hands and the other one went, psych, see ya, right? And you forced the situation. It's made worse if the sitting dog and the walking dog are left to stare at each other down, right? They're just staring constantly and just increasing aggression. So you're kind of like sitting and stewing. right? So the only time a sit-stay is appropriate, by the way, for a distracted dog is if the owner is literally physically unable to pass and the owner places their body between their dog and the other dog. And only if the sitting dog's eyes can be focused anywhere other than on that dog. So they may not be able to stare at you, giving you eye contact while the other dog's passing, but you want to make sure that dog is not going to be staring at the other dog. So if they look away or they look up or they focus on your hands, that's acceptable, but not staring down the other dog while they're in a sit-stay. That's completely counterproductive. All right. Let's talk about the various types of the standoff or various configurations. There are several kinds, mostly based on positioning or context. So, one kind is the Space Cadet. I call it the Space Cadet because it's two dogs and owners are approaching each other. One or both of the dogs have leashes taut and extended across the sidewalk. This is where we've got a clear signal of claiming ownership of the space, which is the sidewalk, which is an agitating factor. Plus tension on the leash. I can't speak, I guess. Plus tension on the leash. Plus tension on the leash. All right. Plus eye contact longer than 2 seconds. So you have got a situation where the dog or both dogs are extended out and they're just like spanning and zigzagging and owning that space, and they're sending off signals like, bitch, no, you don't come near me, don't you dare, I'm going to kick your ass, and don't make me take my shoe off and hit you over the side of your head. All right, that kind of thing. All right, that's what's going on. So that's a standoff. We may not be totally still, but you're actually creating an aggressive situation. And you may think that their dog is friendly or their dog is friendly. They may even know each other. I don't give a crap. The reality is you're creating aggression and tension, and then they're going to progress that, or they're going to transfer that, I should say, onto the next dog and onto the next dog and onto the next dog. And maybe the other dog's not going to take it so well. Okay? So, Space Cadet. Not okay. Number 2 kind, or sort of configuration, bobbing for parked cars. When a dog is allowed by the owner to go looking for a dog passing by another on the other side of a parked car or across the street, this creates aggressive excitement in the dog. You've seen this. You're like, oh, they don't want to get too close because their dogs are kind of jerks, or they're not really sure what's going to happen. It's not looking good. So one person and their dog stays on the sidewalk, and the other person veers off into the street to get, a parked car between the two of them, right? But what this does is actually teach the dogs to look up and down and around for that dog. They know they're there. They can smell them. There's a scent trail. They got it. They hear the tags. It's still there. Right? But the owners are allowing them to look. Again, it's about the eye contact, right? They're looking all over, and just because the parked car's there so that you have a little more time to stop your dog if they lunge is not helping the dog learn to let it go, right? So, all right, I kind of ad-libbed there and lost my spot. But the key is not letting them lock their eyes on each other, right? This is just going to backfire. So oftentimes using parked cars to block the visual contact with another dog works in the beginning, the very beginning, but very quickly the dogs learn to get wound up even more as it becomes like a hunting game, right? Where'd the squirrel go? Where'd the gopher go? Oh, it's behind the car. It's in the ground. It's now a hunting game, right? You've just exacerbated the problem. So these owners will find that every time they just want to walk their dog to their own cars, if you want to go take them to like a store to go get some new toys or something, or they walk through a parking lot, the dogs will start bobbing their heads up and down and around parked cars looking for dogs that aren't even there. So we've actually created a hunting game out of this bob. And why? Because you let them stare. You didn't focus on getting their eyes off the situation and letting it go. All right. The number 3 kind of configuration type of standoff, which we've talked about, is the sitting duck. Owners will make their dogs sit and stew in their own hormones while a distraction passes, increasing their hormonal drive, making them take the unrequited peace sign and letting them bob their head around to stare down the other dog. It results in the owner just physically holding them in place, but just in a sit. It's not any different than holding them in place when they're standing, right? And not teaching the dog to let the distraction go, i.e., you teach the dog to increase their aggression when you ask them to pull to the side and sit. The proper way to use sit-stay for desensitization is only when the dog is slightly distracted and still focus on what you're saying without staring down the other dog. And they must be continually rewarded with food or praise for sitting and staying. Actually, I do both. My dog only takes the praise, but I prefer that you do both food and praise, right? So this requires more space than a sidewalk has to offer and more precursory training to get into this intermediate step of desensitizing. So when people who first call a trainer and ask them to help them, and the first thing they tell them to do is use food to desensitize them, wrong answer. That's secondary. That's outside of after already doing some training and teaching the dog to continue moving on and continue healing. So, in general, the best way to deal with approaching dogs when your dog or the other dog is overexcited is to keep moving. Make sure your body is between your dog and the other dog. This may require you to switch your dog to the other side of you before you get anywhere near the dog. Demand that the other owner rein in their dog so that you can pass without contact. You have the legal right to do that. I would even use the words for legal reasons. Bring in your dog so we can pass without contact, please. If they insist their dog is friendly, please realize that this is a completely irrelevant statement and a typical catch-all for, a shubster. That's how they're going to respond. So I suggest you respond back by saying, I am not friendly. My dog's friendly. I am not friendly. That would probably be a better inflection. You may even snarl and growl if you feel you are too much in their selfish little world to see that you're asking for trouble for everyone, right? So if they're in their own little world, I would snarl and growl. I have. It's very fun. I do it very often compared to most people, I suppose. But it does lend for some good stories around the campfire later on. You have the right to use whatever you have to make sure that your dogs, their dog, your dog, are safe, and that you're able to pass each other without contact. Okay? So don't listen to this my dog's friendly crap. It's completely irrelevant. That's like saying the sky is blue. I don't care. Let us pass. So do not force your dog in the standoff. Right? No space cadets, no bobbing for parked cars, no sitting ducks. You're only going to teach your dog to be more stressed out, more aggressive than before. Now, you might realize that you don't know how to switch your dog to the other side of you in a smooth and calm manner while you're walking your dog. You might realize that you don't know how to walk your dog, aggressive dog, past another dog without a physical struggle. Then I suggest, just saying, you take the healing workshop from me if you're in the Los Angeles area, which is the first Sunday of every month. Oh, this coming Sunday, for example. August 3rd. Or you could take the street obedience class from me, which is a little more practice. So if you're curious, go to bluecollarworkingdog.com and check out the training tab. You'll find my mug there among other trainers, and I'll help you avoid the mistake of the shubster move of the standoff. And by the way, there's still some time to get the dog walking etiquette rule 1, numeral 1, from teespring.com that says back off my pack in the front, and in the back it says find yourself a petting zoo. So if you'd like to have that t-shirt, you have time. If we don't get 50 people to order, we're not going to make the t-shirt. So there's no obligation if not enough people order the t-shirt, but I highly recommend it because you're probably not as much of a jerk as I am, and I will verbally, tell people to piss off with my dogs. So I don't want you to have to go through that pressure. Just wear it instead. It'll be your special dog walking t-shirt. So look, we love our dogs, but in the dog world, to love is to serve. So give your dog little opportunities to serve you in little ways every day, especially on the walk, and in return, serve them well. Talk to you all next week and keep it on moving.